welcome again to the next edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D, Season 3. Man, that's a lot of rhyming, ain't it, co-host down there?
It is.
Yeah, so Sandra Ankton is co-host. What we're doing, the next couple of co-hosts, Candace is out, but I thought this was an opportune time to go out and seek somebody much more talented than her to fill that chair. So in the comments, let me know what you think about co-host as we roll them in here, who should do it. And, if Candace gets outvoted, you know what I'm saying? This is your time to shine, Sandra. Okay?
Wow.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So that being said, out of the way, we have Tina Hobbs in here. And I would tell your title, but it's changed like 3 times at least last, little bit. But glad to have you here. So, Tina, if you will, this is the way we like to get started most times, is just start by maybe telling us about you in your path to education and how you got where you're at. How about that?
All right. Well, I'm currently serving as the Dawson Novice Teacher Coordinator, Mentoring Coordinator, and I've been in this role now for, I believe this is the beginning of the 6th year.
Yeah,
it's the 6th
yeah,
year.
It's been a little
Yeah,
minute.
it's been the 6th year. And prior to that, I was a principal at assistant principal at an elementary school, and then a principal at an intermediate school. And prior to that, I served in a number of roles in instruction and curriculum, and I originated as a middle school math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so middle school is kind of where my heart still resides,
Yeah.
and of course still math. But as a principal, I learned very quickly the importance of every student being a fluent reader.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Sam.
so my world opened up whenever
Yeah.
I stepped
Yeah.
outside of curriculum,
Oh, yeah.
specifically to math. And it also opened up to new teachers whenever I became a principal.
Right. So as far as schools that you've worked in, where was your first job, very first job?
My very first job was at Glen Rose.
Oh, okay.
Glen Rose Middle School.
Right.
And then I went to Malvern.
Okay.
That's where I lived, and that's
Okay.
where my kids went to school. And so the rest of my career has been in a public school, has been at Malvern,
Right.
with the exception of the time I've spent here at Dawson.
So as far as, are you originally from Malvern? Is that home for you?
I was born in California.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that. Did you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Los Angeles, California.
All right. Yeah.
And moved to
Superstar.
yeah. And moved to Arkansas when I was 5.
Oh, okay.
And so I just spent my early years there, but my Arkansas was home to my parents.
So from L.A. to Malvern?
From L.A. to Benton.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Lived in Benton until I was 13, and that's when we moved to Malvern.
Okay.
And I've pretty much been there
Yeah.
since. I've spent
Man.
some time in Hot Springs, but
Man. That's a switch in culture for sure, though. L.A. to Benton, Arkansas. So.
And we actually lived on Highway 70, so we
Oh,
were in
wow.
rural
Yeah.
Benton,
So did you go to
Arkansas.
Rural Dale?
I went to Rural Dale.
Wow.
Sure
Yeah.
did.
Hey, yeah, we're dating ourselves a little bit, but I played ball or pee-wee ball. I remember that over there in that little Rural Dale gym. That
Let me tell you, in my 6th grade class, there were 6 students.
wow.
And
Yeah.
get this, 4 girls, 2 boys,
Yeah.
2 Tinas, 2 Kellys.
Wow.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great math problem.
Yeah, yeah, and also a great movie in there somewhere, Lifetime, somewhere, I think, but I digress. You mentioned the part about the importance of the fluency and literacy. I was thinking about this the other day. You have a grandson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but the grandparents that are in education, those kids don't have a chance. You know what I'm saying? As far as hey, they want to play Hot Wheels or whatever. Hey, no, let's read a book. So it's just kind of being on this side of the fence. It's hard not to want to read as much as you can and get them hooked and that kind of thing. So I just found that interesting. I think those kids are going to be, like I say, it's just a little different for them. They get a little more reading.
Well, yeah, and as a grandparent, you'll find out sometime soon. Just that time spent with them is incredibly different than it was with your own children.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right.
and you attend to those things that you know are most important. And sitting down and reading a book with a child, there's not a better game.
Oh yeah,
out there.
All right. And I love doing that. I get the opportunity still time to time to go read at some elementary schools and getting in, real animated and pulling them into the story. Man, there's
You
nothing like that.
animated?
Oh, just a little, just a little. Animated. Some say extra, but I like animated. I think I'm gonna run with animated from here on out. What are you laughing so hard about? You think that's the truth?
Extra.
Extra. Okay.
That's a Katie term for you.
Yeah. Well, actually, V tells me that a lot.
Okay,
So.
well-
But it probably didn't originate from Katie. There's no doubt. I would say so. So, as far as what you're doing now, did you ever envision having the opportunity to do what you're doing now?
Well, no. Life happens, and I believe God opens doors where He needs you to be. But as a principal, I did have an extra heart. I had new teachers regularly.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a burden for the burden on them of expectation.
Yeah.
When I was a principal, it was still required that they demonstrate proficiency in all 22 components of the test rubric.
Right. Yeah.
Their first year.
Yeah.
And I thought that's an impossible task and way more burdensome on a first year teacher than even someone in their fourth year.
Right.
That it's also a burden on. In terms of demonstrating that.
Yeah. Well, and I think back to administratively speaking. I mean, I always enjoyed getting the new teachers, and I think this program is so important as far as preparing these young folks. Well, not all of them are young. Some are like me, kind of a retread on their career and getting in a little bit later, but new teacher nonetheless. And it's so it's really exciting to see them when they get on our campus here at Dawson. And watch them grow even that first year, because they hit the ground running with all this excitement, and then by the second or third time you're meeting with them, man, it's all business.
It is when the rubber meets the road, and they really see a lot of what feedback I get is they just don't realize all of the administrative responsibilities that they have.
Yeah.
They're ready to teach. They're excited to teach. They're studying their content and their curriculum. But then it's all the extra that comes outside of the 7:30 to 3:30 time frame in terms of keeping up with planning and reporting, and so it is very eye-opening. I wanted to remark though to something you said about new teachers young and maybe not 22.
Right.
That's been a big aha for me. Coming in, I'm just going to be honest. The bottom of the stack, somebody that was not traditionally educated, went to the bottom of my stack when I was looking through applicants, and I have been blown away at the value those career changers bring to education.
Right. Well, and speaking to that a little bit, I mean, I worked in the corporate world, quote unquote, I guess, but that life experience is probably, because we didn't have a program like that when I went through 28 years ago or whatever. But the thing I would say about that is it was the real world experience that kind of gave me balance on the way I approach some things, where some of the new teachers that jumped in there with me, were freaking out about, like you're saying, some of the administrative type tasks and trying to cram every single bit of it in. But, coming from what I had done and been through that fast-paced, think on your feet kind of thing, really prepared me, I think, a little bit more, just because I'd had that experience. And but I would have loved to have a program like that's in there now, because as you jump in, you think I'm going to be this superstar teacher right off the bat. And it could be something as simple as preparing a lesson plan, thinking this is going to last the whole class. And that first lesson plan, 15 minutes, you're done, and you're going, okay, we got to go back and rework this thing. So, and I think so. Do they stay with you 3 years?
For 3 years.
Okay,
yes.
all right. Well, and that's the other part. I think that support piece has been incredible. I know you've shared from time to time some of the emails that you get, and just like the other day, the one that referred back to a quote that you had sent her. So
Well, it has been by far in my career the greatest opportunity for me to build My
Yeah.
network has exploded
Yeah,
in terms
right.
of professional relationships with teachers.
mhm.
I, whenever I get a text or an email, I immediately picture their classroom because
Right.
that's one of the things I try to step foot in
Mhm.
all of their classrooms
Right.
during the first year, and it's just cool to watch them grow, and
Right. Yeah.
it's certainly an added blessing in this
Yeah.
role.
Oh yeah. So talk about just a little bit about pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID, and just some of the highs and lows, I guess.
Well, one of the things and I remember letting you know this because
Mhm.
it was kind of shocking information to me. Our retention rates in our area, and I'm thankful for it,
Mhm.
have been 90% and above
Right.
throughout.
Mhm.
During the year that I had year one teachers that experienced COVID in 2020
Yep.
in the spring, they didn't get to finish the school year
Yeah.
with their students. Came back, didn't get to start the school
Mhm.
year with their students, but then finished out. That was my highest retention rate of
Wow.
any group I've had, and it was like 98.7%.
That's awesome.
And the couple that had not left the profession. They had just moved to another area, so they were no longer in our region. But those, they've been my heroes
Right.
all along because they didn't know what they didn't know, so
Sure.
they didn't know any different, and
Right.
they were easily pivoted
Yep.
and were not afraid
Right.
to figure out ways to
Mhm.
reach their kids. And so they were able to sustain that, and that particular group is still thriving.
Right.
They're
Well,
going
that's
to be
awesome.
leaders in the
Yeah.
field and already making their way.
Yeah. Well,
in that
and,
direction.
and I think about that. That's the one big plus, I would say. Some of the younger teachers out there, they are not afraid to try and punt, if you will, back up and do something differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I enjoy that aspect of it. Now and again, you're going to have a few bad apples in whatever you do, but one of the things I think that you can't prepare a student for is just that mental toughness.
Mhm.
Either you have the grit or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I try to tell them. I'm not going to, I don't lie to them and say it's going to be all, wine and roses. You're going to hit rough patches.
Mhm.
But I said, but that's going to happen whatever you do.
That's right.
And then the important thing is make sure you bounce back when you do that. So, talk a little bit about what these novice teachers get when they go through the program.
Well, we start out in the summer. We do a novice summer academy for year
Mhm.
ones coming in. That usually catches about 2/3 of them because
Right.
of just timing
Right.
in terms of the amount of days available in the summer and when hiring
Yep.
occurs.
Hmm.
But they come in and I use the text Harry
Mhm.
Wong's first day
Oh,
of
yeah.
school.
Yeah.
It hadn't gotten old.
Right,
It
yeah.
still is a good set for what's necessary to get your classroom up and running,
Right.
to make it a well-oiled machine so
Sure.
that it runs itself, or
Right.
i.e. students run it.
Yeah.
But setting classroom procedures and getting those
Mhm.
routines intact and how to just get started on day one
Right.
with the ball rolling. We liken it to we're opening a business,
Yeah.
and how do you want it to run? Because you're the business owner,
Right.
and you've got to make sure that that's said. So they do that. They write a classroom management plan. They make a slideshow.
Right.
We share that with each other,
Mhm.
and they get ideas from each other, and then they take off.
Well, I think that's probably one of the most key components to that whole program is when they're all together and they talk about what the experiences they've had, good, bad, and ugly,
Mhm.
right? and just share it. And it's got to be a relief for them when they figure out, "Whew, I'm not the only one that this has happened to." You talk about the classroom management. I remember when back in the day, we had the block, where they'd kind of get you prepped up to go out and teach. This is no lie. So I'm in secondary, 7, 12, or what have you, and the instructor had this great classroom management thing, which was put all the kids' names on a popsicle stick and pull that out, and they get to be helper for the day. And I thought, okay, she's got to be elementary, which she was. That was her background. And then I also had to think about when I did my student teaching, and we had an 18-year-old that was court ordered to come back to school to get his degree or go to jail or what have you. I thought, yeah, I could just see me pulling out a big old box of popsicle sticks for that guy. And I was like, okay, moving on, Pat. I don't think that one's going to work for us. But times have changed. And like I say, the big thing is that's one of the key components that as any teacher will figure out is setting those expectations. But even harder than that is making sure that you stick to them with that classroom management piece.
Interesting that you brought up the popsicle stick thing, because that is a tool that can be used for questioning,
right?
So that you're sure to, not let the same person answer all the questions. But I have already been in a year 1 teacher's class, secondary English class, and she was walking around giving stickers when students were responding appropriately.
Yeah.
She called them an A sticker, and a bunch of high school boys, and they were puffed up at getting a sticker, and she was working that very effectively, and I don't see that a lot on the secondary level. But I was in awe that she already had her classroom management rolling, and that she was effectively using something that maybe is not typically used a lot in a secondary classroom, but it was working for her. So one style certainly comes into play about what works for them.
Oh, and the questioning thing, I think that'd be good. But to say, hey, you're going to be Coach B's helper for the day, with that 18-year-old. I envisioned what he would tell me to do with that popsicle stick. So, needless to say, that was not a tactic that I used. So, but with those kids in there, I say kids, new teachers. Back to the part of being able to share exactly what you're saying. Hey, this worked for me, or this, I tried this and it didn't work for me. That is so important, I think. Even in the roles that probably all of us sit in, just talking to your peers to know, hey, this is not just a me problem, it's a we problem, or issue, I should say. And being able to talk through those kinds of things, I think it's really kind of a really great way to handle that. So as the year goes on, how many times do you meet with the novices?
Well, I bring them in. I bring the year 1s in at least once first semester, because it's kind of the let's see where we are and get everybody's temperature. And it is a great time where they get to share. Sometimes that's kind of where they're sliding into that survival mode of, I don't know if I can do this. It's too hard. I'm drowning. And like you already referred to, once you get into a group and everybody's feeling that way, it's a relief that, okay, well, I'm not doing something wrong. This is just the stage of where we are in learning this practice and getting things down. Year 2s and year 3s, I in the past have not brought them in live during the year. I'm doing that this year, just because we have a stronger focus on ensuring that they're getting professional learning specifically to specific domains and tests. Because the overall goal, outside of just general support for them for resources, is to ensure that in their first 3 years that they well understand what the effective practice looks like for all 22 components. And so in order to do that, a lot of times the summer is full of mandated PD they have. for
Right.
science of reading as of late, and then PLC. Their school,
Sure.
a lot of the PLCs
Right.
are taking up a lot of their PD time. So I did that this year, gonna bring them in just to support some components. But I meet regularly with them online, pretty much monthly. I'll have a Zoom session that if it's something they need. So
Right.
that's kind of a differentiation piece.
Yeah.
If you need help working on your PGP, these 3 afternoons, you can hop on a Zoom. I deliver PD in the after-school hours for self-care and just managing some strategies in certain seasons of the year.
Sure.
Kind of have the seasons divided out into quarters.
Right.
The first quarter is the season of sacrifice. That's
Yeah.
where you're spending extra time and
For
late
sure.
hours. And so we offer some strategies to take care of yourself first,
Right.
and also some things you can do in your classroom, because the truth of the matter is, during those seasons, your students are feeling the same thing.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, the teacher is the one that's in charge of making things happen, but
Right.
but the exhaustion, if you will, during the season of sacrifice,
Right.
is just as real for the students.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody else yesterday, and we were talking about the fact, trying to take it back to that. But as a brand new teacher, I mean, you're just going full steam ahead, and then like coming up to Labor Day, you get that extended weekend, and it's only an extra day, but really and truly. And when she said that, it made me think back to that, and she wasn't wrong. I mean, once you hit Labor Day, you feel like, okay, I'm settled down. I think I got this. But it's such a, boom, out of the chute, running all the way up until now. And like you're saying earlier, just to catch your breath. So, but some things change and some things never change. But
Right.
I think that's probably one thing that most teachers can relate to.
Yes, I really probably preach, is probably the best word, mother, teachers, and tell them, for the first 6 weeks, do what you have to do.
Right.
Whatever it takes, eat out, whatever, fast food, do what you have to do. But by October 1st, I say that's the magic date.
Yeah.
The magic date is October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you have going on October 1st, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And you've worked hard to get it there.
Right.
Now, the rule of thumb is no work after 5 o'clock in the evenings.
Right.
If you go to a ball game, okay, that's fine.
Sure.
That's for pleasure.
Right.
But no work.
Right.
Don't take the teacher bag home.
Right.
Leave it at school, or
Right.
leave it in the car. If you
Right.
just have to have it with you, leave it in the car. But no work after 5 o'clock, and you have to have one day, Saturday or Sunday, that's totally free of work.
Right.
Sunday afternoon, a couple of hours just to get your head going for the next week. But it's really important to become disciplined early
Right.
about
Yeah.
maintaining
Yeah.
a distinct difference between
Yeah.
work
And
your
I'll-
personal life.
excuse me. Obviously, everybody's going to be different with that. And we talk about it a lot, but relationships. Let's be honest. Anything you do in life, that's what it comes down to: relationships and building relationships. I think that the extra added, I don't know if I'd call it pressure, but as teachers, I think pre-K all the way through 12. That relationship seed has to be planted and nurtured all the way through. And for the most part, I say most folks get that, So I don't know about Candace, you know what I'm saying? She's not great on that, but I'm
Whatever.
I'm working on it with
What?
her.
No,
So,
I think Candace is working on
yeah,
you.
so it's been a great. Hey, she's working on my last nerve. Okay, that's what she's working on. So
I would like to reiterate something. Being an aunt of a first-year teacher, and knowing that they have the support of Tina,
right.
it's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
because they need that support. And I always tell them, if you need something, if you call me, if I don't know, I'll find out. If I can get Tina, whatever I need to do,
Yeah.
you just have to.
Yeah.
It's such a relief to them to know.
Yeah.
I have Tina. I can call
Yeah.
her at any time, because you've told them. Call me anytime.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Oh, I do too.
And I've heard all this, like we work closely together and we talk a lot, so I hear the stories.
Sure.
And I'm just proud of the work that she does.
Yeah, she does an incredible job. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that honestly, that goes back to the relationship piece. I mean, those kids, again, I'm calling them kids, the first year, the novice teachers, you know, it's so important, like you're saying, to have a person you can truly count on.
Yes.
And I mean, a lot of people give that, you know, lip service. Hey, if you need something, call me. And when you do call, it's straight to voicemail every time, you know. But I know of certain instances that you told me that, I mean, they do text, call, or email late in the evening. And so that's definitely in your wheelhouse to be able to be that motivator, because that's a big part of what that first year is having somebody there that can motivate you along the way to say, hey, you got this. And, you know, again, this isn't the first time that's happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you talked about relationships, and I 100% agree. That's the reason we're on this earth.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Bottom line, when
Right.
it comes down to it,
Right.
that's the sole reason we're here. But that's one of the things we really talk about in the summer, because relationships don't happen in a day, in a
Nope.
week.
Right.
Trust and respect is not there in a day, in
Right.
a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are things that happen over time as a result of a lot of interaction.
Right. Yeah.
And so, despite the fact that you know, you want to walk into a classroom on your first day and you want your kids to show you respect,
Right. Yeah.
that's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
You have to build
Mm-hmm.
a community where respect is
Yeah.
the bottom line. In
Yeah,
terms of
no
how you
doubt,
treat
no
each
doubt
other.
it has to be modeled. And again, I don't care if you're dealing with a 5-year-old or a 17, 18-year-old. In order for it to really come to fruition, I think it's got to be modeled with some consistency. And I tell you, you know, looking back on things, you know, there are certain situations I know I could have and should have probably handled differently with certain kids. I got better at it as I rolled on, but, you know, not having something like this, I mean, I just can't, as I look back too, I think about how important that would have been, you know, because you know, and this was just how it was back in the day, but they, you know, they prep you up, roll you out. And I remember my first actual job, they gave me a sack with like 3 books and said, go forth and teach, basically. And I thought, okay, you know, that's where the radio really came in handy, you know what I'm saying? So, but, well, let's get on. So, you know, you talk about novice teachers, that kind of stuff, right? And I think that's a good question for you, thinking back on it. If you knew then what you know now, what are some of the things you would have done differently as a teacher, administrator?
As a teacher, I'm just thankful there's standards now, because
Right.
when I started, there were not standards for
right.
the classes
Sure.
you taught.
Right.
You were talking about you were given 3 textbooks. I was
Right.
given 0 textbooks and had no one. And I, you know, I think I can relate well still to novice teachers, because I did. You're afraid to ask
Right.
because you think you're expected to know.
Right.
And so you don't want to reveal the fact that
Right.
you don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm really transparent about that, about my own
Sure.
practice, that's where I started. And don't be me.
Right.
Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to ask. I would do a lot of research, but I was afraid to ask because I didn't want people to know I had no idea.
Well, and especially your kids. But here's a little secret about kids. They're the best BS detectors in America.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, I waved that white flag early. I'd say, well, I don't know, but let's find out.
Yes,
know?
and it didn't take me long to learn that too. You know,
Right.
you can't fake. You can't fake it. So
Right.
just be honest, and
Right.
that's actually very appealing. It's very
Right.
appealing to others to know
Right.
that you
Yeah.
don't know everything and that you're trying to figure it out. But I don't know that I've answered your question, but I want to be sure and get this in, because it's a big part of what I do, and it's something I'm really proud that we offer. We have a lot of people that come in that have not completed all of their
Right.
credentials for
Right.
licensing.
Yeah.
They're on a provisional license, and so they're working toward that. And we have services that we give them that support their passage of tests
Right.
that they
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
take.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a quick particular story that's just come full circle from a district. One of the people I work with at one of the districts in our region, we were talking about another novice teacher, and she said, "Oh, by the way, I have this para,
Mm-hmm.
and she's really good. Is there any way we could help her?" Without giving too many details, because I
Right.
don't want to do
Right.
that. This lady has had some really unique circumstances in
Right.
her life, and we got her on a pathway this summer.
Oh, yeah.
She had some hoops she had to jump through
Mhm.
because her degree was from out of the country, and so we had to get that verified
Right.
and get reciprocity of just her degree. And she just passed her praxis test got her scores last week,
Mm.
and has entered into an RPET program and is now employed as a teacher
Wow.
in this
That's great.
district.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And yeah, there's a lot more to that story,
Mhm.
and she had some giant obstacles.
Right. Yeah.
But that came just out of a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and her school district, I'm really proud of them that they
Mhm.
saw the potential in her, and that together we were able to get her along a pathway that's getting her to licensure, because that's one of the things in our state, in our nation.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher shortage
Yes.
is a real issue.
Yeah, I was on a Zoom earlier this morning, and that continues to be a topic of concern. So I think it's so important for districts to be able, number one, to identify, but most importantly, support those folks that have that desire. Because,
Absolutely.
I think some of the best teachers that I've known, even going on to be administrators, started out as paras. And that's one thing I think about teaching. I mean, most folks have it in their heart.
Uh-huh.
Some think they do. They have it in their head. But when they get in there, it's like, ooh, what'd I step into?
Best on the
Yeah.
job training there could possibly
Yeah.
be in any role
Mhm.
is to spend time in a school before you
Right.
ultimately have that responsibility on your
Right.
own, which leads me to the Grow Your Own program
Mm-hmm.
that's just now really getting
Right.
off the ground here in Arkansas to support teachers, aspiring teachers,
Mm-hmm.
to go into a residency program
Yeah.
and literally spend time
Yeah.
in the school
Mm-hmm.
while they're doing their coursework online or in some other fashion where it's delivered at night,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can actually be at the school
Yeah.
getting practical experiences
Oh, I agree.
alongside a mentor, a journeyman, if you
Mhm.
will.
Right.
And those dollars are all those are all federal dollars that
Yeah.
are supporting that, and I'm elated at the potential in
Right.
that program.
Yeah. And I'll agree. I think, there's been an emphasis last couple of years for sure on that program. But I mean, to me, you'd be foolish not to take advantage of that one because, honestly, at times it's hard enough just to get a para, let alone a teacher.
Right.
But if you have somebody that's interested that comes in as a parent, knowing that, hey, ultimately this could work into something. But I think more and more schools are buying into that program at this point.
Well, and we have several of our districts that have the
Mhm.
pre-educator program in their
Right.
high school too,
Yeah.
through their CTE
Right.
programs, and so that's another pipeline that I hope continues to grow.
Right.
We have some really strong programs, but then we have
Right.
some schools that have not quite gotten on board
Right.
with that, and so I hope that continues to grow, because there's potential for a high school senior to step out, to
Mhm.
graduate from high school and step into a job,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and in 4 years earn a degree
Right.
and have a standard teaching license,
Yeah.
and having had that 4 years of
Yep.
experience, getting paid while they
Yeah.
do it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it is just a great opportunity.
Oh, I wouldn't disagree with it. Okay, well, let's have some Tina talk now. What do you think, Sandra? You got a good question for her? I've got one. Let's just do the standard. what was your most embarrassing moment
Oh,
as a
no.
teacher? As a teacher, we've all had them.
Oh, well, there's been plenty of those, yes. My very first year, I was teaching, Michael. Michael was my class clown, and I was still figuring it out
Right.
for sure, but I thought I had it figured out. And, you know, I thought I was a great classroom manager right
Right.
off the bat,
Yep.
and I put them to group work for the first time because I knew I had them under control, and it got out of control really quickly. And the classroom I was in had a door on either side of it
Oh yeah.
that led to the cafeteria.
Oh wow.
And I left those doors open all the time just because you needed the airflow, you know,
Right,
on
yeah.
the building. And they were out of control. I had no control. And so I got at the front of the classroom with both of my arms up and told Kelly to close that door and Jack to close that door, and I was about to let them have it. And I was going to show them how you get things back in
Right.
control by throwing a fit. And whenever I got up there, Michael said, "Ooh, here she goes," and
Yeah.
he starts rubbing his hands. I was about to throw a fit,
Right.
and when he said that, I could not have thanked him
Right.
more.
Yeah. Pretty humbling.
It was very humbling, and I started laughing.
Yeah.
And of course, he starts laughing.
Yeah.
Everybody else was wide-eyed,
Right.
going like, "What is she gonna do?"
Yeah.
Well, I just laughed and I thanked him in
Yeah.
front of the class.
Well,
I
that's
said,
awesome.
"Thank you
Yeah.
for saving." But it was embarrassing to me that I let myself
Yeah.
almost lose control
Yeah.
because I think that is critical, that you don't ever lose
Yeah.
control in front of your students. There's been plenty of
Yeah.
things I can't say online,
Well, right.
you know,
Well, you
to
know,
camera.
Well,
that
that
have
doesn't
happened.
really hold a candle to Candace's setting in chocolate while wearing white pants and teaching her heart out, and the kids are going, Miss Bennett, you know.
Okay, well, if you want
So,
a really
yeah.
embarrassing one,
Yeah.
I had a kindergartner get off at my building, off the bus because he had to go,
Right.
and the bus had to leave, and so they're
Right.
saying, where's this kid? Where's this kid? So I got called out of the bus
Yeah.
lane. I trekked into the little boy's bathroom, and he literally was stuck in the commode, literally, like suctioned
Yeah.
down in the commode.
Yeah.
We could not get him.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
could not get him off off the throne. And so he's just
Oh,
carrying on
wow.
this big long conversation with me about he thought it was the cupcakes they had for the birthday party.
Yeah. I got you.
And we're calling mom, and it's like we can't get
Yeah.
him. We can't get him.
So would you
out
have
of
to
the bathroom.
bring in the jaws of life to extract him, or what?
I did get the custodian there.
There you go.
And we
Hey.
finally got that suction
Broken?
broken.
Yeah,
Got
gotcha.
the suction broken.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
the kid was fine. He didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
He was cool. We
Yeah.
had this big long
Yeah.
conversation, him,
Yeah.
you know, in the stall. And so
Man, that's a heck of a story for him to be able to tell the rest of his life,
Right.
you know.
well, I had contacted his teacher and got her on the phone just to get more, because
Right.
it was
Yeah.
hard to understand him. So
Right,
I
sure.
wasn't sure what his name was. And I
Right.
had contacted his teacher, and so had her on speakerphone. And so she was in on the conversation.
Wow.
He told me all about the birthday party and that was probably why his stomach was not being very kind to him in the moment.
Man,
Yeah.
that's pretty good though. Right?
It was a fun story. It's also why I never taught kindergarten.
Right, that's true. Hey, yeah, you're always wiping one end or the other in kindergarten. I've learned that the hard way. Trust me. So tell us about your newfound passion for pickleball. I mean, we talked about that. That's a lot. That's like catching. I mean, that's the new craze, I guess.
And there is something addictive about it.
Yeah.
I like golf. I'm
Yeah.
just not very good at it.
Right.
And I don't get to spend a lot of time practicing,
Right.
real practicing
Right.
golf. And so I really wanted something to
Yeah.
do that I could do after work
Right.
and still get a little bit of cardio in. And so I joined this pickleball league in the end of April.
Yeah.
I want to play every day.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to play every day.
I've only played a couple times, but it is pretty fun. I'll say that. The reason I like it, it's a short chord. So I mean, my big old fat rumbling, stumbling self, I can cover most of it. Not real quick though, but it's still like anything else my age. My mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm fixing to smash this thing, and my timing is way off. So it never goes like I see it. So.
Yeah, well, even with my long, tall self, some of those overhead shots,
Oh,
I
yeah,
still
yeah,
mistime them. And
Yeah.
I'm sure for those that are viewing,
Yeah.
that's quite a sight.
Yeah, well, and I think too, it takes a little bit to get the terminology down, the kitchen and all this other stuff, and I'm
You
like,
gotta stay out of the kitchen.
yeah, stay out of the kitchen, and I'm like, just hit the ball.
And
That's-
don't get pickled.
Yeah, don't get pickled. Exactly. So, but I mean, it is catching on, So, Sandra, did you come up with a good one?
I did.
Okay.
So tell us about your favorite teacher and how they influenced you.
Oh, great question. Great question.
Well, I actually have a lot of favorite teachers throughout my educational career. Who stands out to me anytime I've ever been asked that question is a sweet, dear math teacher called, her name is Frances Starks.
Mm-hmm.
She's no longer with us, but she had an incredible influence on me in high school and probably saw more potential in me and made me believe that I had more potential than I even could imagine, and pushed me really, really hard, which was when I took off in math and continued to pursue challenging myself with math courses.
So, do you have any other educators in your family?
I do not.
Yeah,
And neither one of my children chose
Right.
education.
Yeah.
I hate that because I think both of them could have,
Right.
have thrived in that, but they went different directions. But no,
Yeah.
I'm the only educator.
Well, for my, I guess my immediate family, you would say, I'm the only one, career number 2 for me. But I think, as far as that goes, my dad probably a big influence in that he served on school board for like 17 years. So really, really put it into us the importance of education and giving back, that kind of stuff. But I have other. It's really, but in our extended family, there are I don't know, half a dozen or so that are in education. Yeah, but my son, he didn't have any desire. It's kind of funny, I think, with kids of educators, it's a black and white issue. Either they're in or they're out, right? And he knew early on it wasn't for him,
Right.
So.
Well, I really thought my daughter might go that direction because when she was little, she loved to come and work in the classroom.
Yeah.
She would, set up
Yeah.
her stuffed animals
Yeah.
and have class.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then she decided she wanted to do nursing
Right.
early,
Right.
and never changed
Yeah.
her mind.
Right.
But education was highly valued in my home growing
Yeah.
up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Albeit both of my parents were blue collar workers.
Yep.
It was very important.
Right. Yeah.
They ensured that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah,
doing right
for sure.
and getting an education.
Yeah. Read any good books that aren't professional lately?
I did read one. Well, it was actually an audiobook I listened to on
Yeah.
vacation. That's
Yeah.
the last one that was a non-professional book. It was
Right.
called The Rewind.
The Rewind. I hadn't heard about that one.
Well, I went on Libby to download me an audiobook because I had a
Right.
long drive, and
Yeah.
I was just going to get one of the cheesy Colleen
Yeah.
Hoover books.
Right. Yeah.
And none of those were available, but this
Right.
one was recommended since I was
Right.
looking for Colleen Hoover. And you never know.
Sure. Yeah.
Didn't know
Yeah.
the author. You never know.
Yeah.
But probably about 30 minutes into the book, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
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 I finished all 11 hours
Right.
of it.
Yeah. Whoosh. Man.
I listened to it on the way there and
Yeah.
finished it on the way back.
Yeah.
And
Ironically enough, vacations where I read, but my go-to is nonfiction, biographies, autobiographies, that kind of thing. And
well, this was a beach read.
right.
It
yeah.
was just for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. 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 So I mean,
I tell you though that I do have a story on that, Darren. I wound up. My daughter-in-law typically rides with me when we go to the family beach trip, and she's gonna be a grandma again in 3 weeks, and she was just not feeling up to the trip, and so I wound up driving myself. You know, it's nearly a 9-hour trek,
Oof.
and I had never done that before.
Right. Yeah.
And I was probably a little up in my feels and feeling, a little pity for myself. That, I'm going on vacation. I'm driving all this way all by myself. Well, I started up my book and, it had done the self-talk and gotten myself to the point, I'm good, I can do this. No big deal. Don't be mulling grubbing. And so I'm cruising along, telling myself to be happy and listening to this book. And following my GPS, and it took me away I had never been before.
Right.
So my daughter calls me and goes, hey, Mom, we're stopping for lunch at Tallulah, Wendy's, whatever. And I go, man, I'm not even headed towards Tallulah. She goes, well, where are you? And I go, I'm headed to Yazoo City. And she said, what are you doing? I go, I just followed my GPS.
Right.
And so I was on some, I said, I'm good, y'all eat. I'll stop and give me something to eat shortly. So I'm cruising along, telling myself this is cool.
Right.
And but I'm unfamiliar with the roads because unlike the 30 previous years that I'd driven there, this was a direction I had not gone before. Cruising along, I turn. There's several turns there. You have to turn here and then turn there. I'm just following my GPS. I get on this one road and behind an 18-wheeler and a truck. And I need to get around these folks. So I just pull, get in the left lane. Well, an 18-wheeler's coming right
Oh,
at
Lord.
me. And I thought, this is not a divided highway.
Right, yeah.
And so, thankfully, I was able to squeeze right in between the 18-wheeler and the truck. And my first thought, first I said, thank you, Lord. You still have a purpose for me. And then my second thought was, that was like an episode out of National Lampoon's.
Yeah, Christmas Vacation. Yeah. Where they roll right into that. Yeah.
And so I started laughing out loud, which was when I really got out of my funk about I'm driving to vacation.
She quit
for 9 hours.
molly-grubbing.
I
Have you ever heard
molly-grubbing.
that before?
No.
I have. I've heard it all my life. It means feeling sorry for yourself.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Yeah.
I knew you would know that.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's when I really snapped out of it, and I started laughing, and vacation did begin at that point. And I enjoyed the rewind of the book.
Yeah, when we make those treks with my wife now, since we're empty nesters, I mean, she gets over there, she gets comfortable, takes a blanket, sleeps for a while, and she'll go, do you need me to drive 30 minutes away from the destination? I'm like, I think I got it, so. But for the most part, I mean, she'll offer to drive, but, I'm the world's worst at directions. I'll be the first man probably to admit that publicly. And I rely on that GPS, maybe even sometimes to a place in Little Rock that I've been a couple times, but I'm not sure. But I hate it when they say, okay, turn, take a left, then take a right. And you're thinking, okay, and I'm like, was that the right? And if Candace is with me, hand to God, that was your turn. And I'm like, thank you again, Captain Obvious, so. She don't like driving, but she's one heck of a co-pilot, so I tell you.
Well, at least we don't have the days where you have the giant atlas between the seats and having to pull over.
Yeah, exactly.
Atlas.
Yeah, and then came the ones you plug in, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, what is that, right? You probably don't even know what an atlas is.
I do.
I mean, those things were terrible. My phone's ringing over here. So. But what I would say to that is, I mean, technology. That's me. I've become so dependent on it. Yet that I'm not great at it, and but still. But GPS is something that I think, man, this thing is the end all. It'll get me right where I need to be. All right, before you get out of here, we always like to ask what everybody's listening to on their playlist.
Goodness,
I mean, audiobooks, obviously, right?
Right. Well, I have a run-in playlist that's actually very old, and it's just a lot of old songs. But
what do you call an old, like 70s,
80s,
80s.
80s. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like me some Cher.
Oh yeah.
And newer, I'm a huge Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
A group that a lot of people don't know, but I love, and they don't have a lot published, but Train.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm a Train fan.
I always get Train and Stained mixed up, but yeah, Train's got some good stuff though. I
Yeah.
would give that to you.
Because I don't watch a lot of news, I try to listen to the radio, so I am aware of what's going on in
Yeah,
the world, at
right.
least somewhat. And so,
That's why I listen to music, to forget about all the
Yeah.
stuff that's going on
well,
in the world.
I deliberately do not watch the news on
Right.
television
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just my TV's seldom ever on, and so I catch news via the radio, and so I don't necessarily just have a playlist other than my run playlist, which
Right.
it's old, and I stick with it because I know the mile markers. When a
Right.
song comes on, I know how far.
Like as in plural. Girl, I get
Yeah.
tired driving a mile. I can't imagine. I mean, I get on. I'll get on the elliptical, 30 minutes or whatever. So, but running that's overrated.
Well, I'm a jogger. I'm not it's not a full blown
Well,
sprint.
it's kind of funny because when I go through downtown Hot Springs, they've got lots of joggers, but all of them look either like they're mad at the world or like in excruciating pain, and I'm like, why would you put yourself through that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been running since I was about 11.
Yeah.
And it's kind of.
I think that's about
kind
the
of
time
a
I stopped running.
it's
You know
just
what I'm
kind of a time
saying?
to clear your head, prayer,
For sure.
meditation. Clear
Yeah.
your
Oh
head.
yeah. I'd be praying all right. Dear God,
Yeah.
don't let me drop dead right here.
More like-
that would be me.
Yeah, don't
so.
let that car hit me.
Exactly,
That's coming 100
yeah,
miles an hour in
yeah.
a 30-mile zone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, appreciate you taking the time to visit with us today. Sandra, you got anything else? What you got left? Anything at all?
Have nothing.
Okay. Again, remember now, looking for a new co-host since Candace evidently this is not her priority. So we'll take comments to see what they think, and then we'll tally it up and see. So, okay. All right. Well, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you helping out. So I guess we'll that'll wrap it up for this edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.